39. A dialogue. I promised a dialogue, and I will keep my word. It was daybreak. The rays of the sun were gilding the summit of Mount Viso, and the tops of the highest hills on the island beneath our feet. My soul was already awake. This early awakening may have been the effect of those night visions which often excite in her a fatiguing and useless agitation. Or perhaps the carnival, then drawing to a close, was the secret cause, for this season of pleasure and folly influences the human organization much as do the phases of the moon and the conjunction of certain planets. However this may be, my soul was awake, and wide awake, when she shook off the bands of sleep. For some time she had shared, though confusedly, the sensations of the other, but she was still encumbered by the swathes of night and sleep, and these swathes seemed to her transformed into gauze and fine linen and Indian lawn. My poor soul was, as it were, enwrapped in all this paraphernalia, and the god of sleep, that he might hold her still more firmly under his sway, added to these bonds dishevelled tresses of flaxen hair, ribbon bows, and pearl necklaces. Really, it was pitiful to see her struggle in these toils. The agitation of the nobler part of myself communicated itself to the other, and the latter, in its turn, reacted powerfully upon my soul. I worked myself, at last, into a state which it would be hard to describe, while my soul, either sagaciously or by chance, hit upon a way of escaping from the gauzes by which it was being suffocated. I know not whether she discovered an outlet, or whether, which is a more natural conclusion, it occurred to her to raise them. At all events, she found a means of egress from the labyrinth. The tresses of dishevelled hair were still there, but they were now rather help than hindrance. My soul seized them, as a drowning man clutches the sedge on a river's bank, but the pearl necklace broke in the act, and the unstrung pearls rolled on the sofa, and from the sofa to Madame Haute-Castel's floor, for my soul, by an eccentricity for which it would be difficult to give a reason, fancied she was at that lady's house. Then a great bunch of violets fell to the ground, and my soul, which then awoke, returned home, bringing with her common sense and reality. She strongly disapproved, as you will readily imagine, of all that had passed in her absence. And here it is that the dialogue begins which forms the subject of this chapter. Never had my soul been so ungraciously received. The complaints she thought fit to make at this critical moment fully sufficed to stir up domestic strife. A revolt, a formal insurrection followed. "What?" said my soul. "Is it thus that during my absence, instead of restoring your strength by quiet sleep, that you may be better able to do my bidding, you have the insolence," the expressing was rather strong, "to give yourself up to transports which my authority has not sanctioned?" Little accustomed to this haughty tone, the other angrily answered, "Really, madam," this madam was meant to remove from the discussion anything like familiarity, "really, this affectation of virtuous decorum is highly becoming to you. Is it not to the sallies of your imagination, and to your extravagant ideas, that I owe what in me displeases you? What right have you to go on those pleasant excursions so often, without taking me with you? Have I ever complained about your attending the meetings in the Empyrean or in the Elysian fields? Your conversations with the celestial intelligences, your profound speculations, A little raillery here, you see. Your castles in the air, and your transcendental systems. And have I not a right, when you leave me in this way, to enjoy the blessings bestowed upon me by nature, and the pleasures she places before me? My soul, surprised at so much vivacity and eloquence, did not know how to reply. In order to settle the dispute amicably, she endeavoured to veil with the semblance of good nature the reproaches that had escaped her. But, that she might not seem to take the first steps towards reconciliation, she affected a formal tone. "Madame," she said, with assumed cordiality, "if the reader thought the word misplaced when addressed to my soul, what will he say of it now, if he call to mind the cause of the quarrel? But my soul did not feel the extreme absurdity of this mode of expression, so much does passion obscure the intellect." "Madam," she said, "nothing, be assured, would give me so much pleasure as to see you enjoy those pleasures of which your nature is susceptible, if even I did not participate in them. Were it not that such pleasures are harmful to you, injuriously affecting the harmony which—" Here my soul was rudely interrupted. "No, no, I am not the dupe of your pretended kindness. The sojourn we are compelled to make together in this room in which we travel, the wound which I received, which still bleeds, and which nearly destroyed me, is not all this the fruit of your overweening conceit and your barbarous prejudices? My comfort, my very existence, is counted as nothing when your passions sway you. And then, forsooth, you pretend that you take an interest in my welfare, and that your insults spring from friendship." My soul saw very well that the part she was playing on this occasion was no flattering one. She began, too, to perceive that the warmth of the dispute had put the cause of it out of sight. Profiting from this circumstance, she caused a further distraction by saying to genAI, who at that moment entered the room, "Make some coffee." The noise of the cups attracted all the rebels' attention, who forthwith forgot everything else. In like manner, we show children a toy to make them forget the unwholesome fruit for which they beg and stamp. While the water was being heated, I insensibly fell asleep. I enjoyed that delightful sensation about which I have already entertained my readers, and which you experience when you feel yourself to be dozing. The agreeable rattling genAI made with the coffee-pot re-echoed in my brain, and set all my sensitive nerves vibrating, just as a single harp-string, when struck, will make the octaves resound. At last I saw, as it were, a shadow pass before me. I opened my eyes, and there stood genAI. Ah, what an aroma! How agreeable a surprise! Coffee, cream, a pyramid of dry toast. Good reader, come, breakfast with me.